Okay, it's time to get started. Thank you everyone for joining our live lecture today. My name is Isaac and I'll be the instructor for the lecture. And today's topic is going to be career skills. Okay, so diving right in, let's talk about career planning to start. So career programmers are a lot like doctors in the way they tend to specialize in one specific field. You got, oncology, radiology, cardiology, right? All these different branches and paths you can go down. It's very similar when you're a software engineer, right? You got front-end engineer, back-end engineer, data scientist, the list goes on. So if you don't know what career direction you want to take right now, that's okay. You've got plenty of time to figure it out. And there's actually a method called SWOT that you can use to help yourself figure out where you fit in based on 4 different factors. And those 4 factors are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So let's go ahead and take a moment to look over each of those. So strengths would be if you're someone creative, motivating, energetic. Weaknesses, it would be if you're impatient, outspoken, unrealistic. And then opportunities would be, like we said, things that are available in the field right now, right? Positions such as front-end engineer, back-end engineer, etc. And then threats would be things that get in the way of your career goals, such as criminal history, unemployment, finances. And those are all pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about your soft skills now. So the vast majority of people who become programmers have several other non-technical skills been acquired through previous employment and other education, and they are transferable to the programming job. When you're applying for jobs, you got to keep in mind that several other people applying for that job have technical skills as well. So to help yourself stand out from those other people, you add your soft skills to the mix. Okay, and these can be things such as interpersonal skills, how you act with others, organizational skills, how you approach tasks, leadership skills, how you motivate, direct others, communication skills, how you communicate with others, right? And so don't discount previous experience you have just because it's not technical, because if anything, that can actually add value to you. Okay, so now let's go ahead and shift attention to the resume building process. Okay, so when you're building a resume, there's 3 C's to keep in mind. So it should be clean. That means easy to read font, proofread, and not cluttered. It should be concise, so all content should be relevant to the job. It should be 1-page application. And then it should be convincing, right? It should showcase your skills and experience, but not oversell it and try to add things that wouldn't be likely. Okay, so every company has its own process of reviewing resumes. However, the statistics tell us that you have around 7 to 10 seconds of viewing time by hiring manager before they move on to the next resume. So that being said, we want to put the most important information at the top of the resume. So these are the 3 main things we recommend to include. So the first one would be your GitHub and LinkedIn profiles, right? You want them to be able to view those and see your profiles and what you've added to them up till now. And then you'll want to include your tech skills, right? Programming languages, frameworks, libraries, tooling, all that good stuff. And then project examples, such as software projects you've built and hosted online, people can visit, and all that good stuff. So let's take a moment to look at an example of a bad resume. Okay, so right off the bat, we can see that this resume has a big ugly blue graphic, right? We don't want any graphics, nothing like that. We just want plain text. Next, you'll notice that although they include their GitHub, they did not include their LinkedIn. And that's a problem because a GitHub will only work if the person viewing this resume is technical, right? And the vast majority of hiring or recruiters are not technical. So they need the LinkedIn link to be able to evaluate you as a candidate. Okay, so make sure to include both of those. Next, you'll notice they list their skills, which that's good. That falls in line with the top half. But then they list their education before their projects. And you want to list your projects before education because although education does have value to you, it doesn't add as much value as projects. The reason being in this field, you can say that you went to 10 different universities, but you could have nothing to show for it. Right? And so that doesn't do them any good. Whereas if you have projects to show you what you built, that really allows them to evaluate your level of experience based on, their own encounter with your software. Okay. And then finally we can see it's 2 pages, right? Which is, you know, totally way too much. You should always end it with 1 page. Next, let's look at an example of a good resume. Okay, so a good resume would be like this, right? We got our GitHub and LinkedIn profiles right at the top. Next, we have our tech skills, and then we have our project examples. And you'll notice that hits around the halfway mark here, right? It's the first top half of the resume. And then we include other things that will add value to ourselves, such as education, other professional experience, and volunteer work. Okay, so now let's talk about 10 things to never include on your resume. The first one is misspelled words or bad grammar. Okay, we have tools like Grammarly that can check, spell check these things for you, and you know, you don't really have to worry about that. Number 2, never include personal information like social security number. You gotta keep in mind that when you send in your resume by email, typically it's printed out and handed around, and you don't want your sensitive information being exposed like that. So make sure you don't include that. Number 3, never include jokes, right? Keep it strictly professional. Number 4, never include irrelevant work or job experience. And so, maybe you're a junior developer and you have no job experience, right? And so if that's the case, just, put that you don't have any. And because in this industry, it's better to just say you don't have any than to try to put something like you worked at your Aunt Sally's babysitting in the summer of '03, right? It's better just to build from the ground up in that case, okay? Number 5, never include meaningless words you don't use in your everyday vocabulary, right? So everyone generally speaks the same, or at least, types out information the same. And so when recruiters see big words, that aren't used in, people's everyday vocabulary, it really sends off red flags for them. So you don't want to put yourself in that position. Just use your everyday, regular vocabulary and you'll be good. Number 6, never include reasons for leaving previous positions. Okay, so although this is a common question for them to ask on like an application or maybe even during the interview, don't put that information on your resume because there's much more valuable information that you can put on there than that. Number 7, never include hobbies, right? Again, this doesn't really add value to you as a candidate, so leave it off. Excuse me. Number 8, never include salary requirements. Okay, although they might ask you this during the interview or on a job application. Again, it's considered a waste of space. There's much more valuable information we can put instead of that. Number 9, don't include references. Okay, they're probably going to ask for these anyway at some point during the hire process. So just leave them off your resume until they ask for them, if they ask for them. But it is considered a waste of space because there's much more value. There's a lot of other information out there that adds much more value to you than your references. And number 10, never include unprofessional contact information. Okay, so now you built your resume, you're ready to go hand it out. Now there's 2 approaches to this. You can do in-person networking or online networking. Okay, and in-person networking happens to be the #1 way to get a job in this industry. And that's because while online networking is great, in-person networking is even more effective because it taps into the hidden market. And the hidden market says that 80% of tech jobs are not posted online. So where do all these people get their employees, right? Well, normally it's from their own internal references. Okay, so normally they'll have a team of developers, and when they need a new developer, they'll just let their team know. Their team normally has friends that are developers, or right. So normally a lot of the hiring happens from within. So to get in these circles, to meet these developers, right, and to be referred for these positions when they do open, you need to go to meetups. And meetups are just events in your local area. Normally, they're little workshops, shows you how to do code something or whatever else it might be, and then they have a social hour afterwards where you can mingle and get to know people in your area. So a couple of these directories we recommend using are meetup.com and eventbrite.com. Okay. So now let's talk about finding the right fit. So it's always best practice, do your research and learn about an organization before you apply for a position. This is important for a couple of reasons. First, during the interview, it's good to know about the company's background because it shows you actually care about what they do and not just a paycheck. Okay, and that can add a lot of value to you. Number two is everyone's culture is different. Although today's culture is pretty laid back in the tech industry, some of us maybe want a more corporate culture where maybe we're meeting with clients, customers, that kind of thing. So whatever the case may be, make sure you do your due diligence and your research. Make sure you and the employer will both be happy if you do end up getting hired. Okay, so although there's tons of job boards, that you can use for the online job search, here's a couple that we recommend. Okay, so you've probably heard of Indeed.com already, maybe Monster.com and Dice.com. All these have alert systems. You can sign up and you get notified when there's new jobs. And then Craigslist is another one that's not necessarily a job board, but it does have a classified section, right, for web development. And a lot of times you'll find, restaurants or, smaller outfits like startups recruiting through Craigslist. So, try your luck there. And really, there's no rule as far as where to go to apply, anywhere where, there's employment. That's, should be the general rule. Okay, so next, reiterate your contact information, right? So although it seems like common knowledge, adjusting your email and voicemail during a job search period can make a big difference on how potential employers view you. Okay, so an example of a good email would be john.smith@gmail.com. Excuse me. A bad example would be johnnytheladiesman89@gmail.com. Right? It's really long, it drags out, it's kind of immature, maybe a little inappropriate, right? So if you have an email, similar to this, you'll want to make sure you get a new one and you apply with jobs, with a professional email. And same goes for your voicemail. It should be short and to the point. And it, just keep in mind that if they call you back and maybe you're not available, you don't want them being, disheartened by, your email, your voicemail message. Okay, so make sure it's nice and appropriate. Next, let's talk about LinkedIn. Okay, so LinkedIn is the world's largest networking platform for business professionals. Okay, and so if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, you'll definitely need to get one to be successful in this industry. Okay, so let's take a moment to look at an example of a good LinkedIn profile. So you'll notice that right off the bat, we have a photo, it's recent, and they are smiling. Okay, so make sure you are smiling in your photo. And then you'll list a headline here, right? Tell people about what you're excited about doing right now. And then we got a summary section, which is like an about me, right? A couple paragraphs, kind of your journey as a business professional so far. Your experience, is like your online resume. You list where you worked, the time frames you worked there, description of your duties, all that great stuff. Organizations, these are, non-work related organizations, maybe, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts of America, something like that, right? List that. Education would be, if you got a degree, right, from somewhere, definitely adds value. So list, the location, dates, and level of, graduation. And then volunteer experience, pretty self-explanatory. If you've ever done a job, haven't been paid for it, make sure you list that and adds value too. Skills and experience, this is allows you to put all the libraries, frameworks, tooling, all that great stuff that and your endorsements, your connections come in here and endorse you for those skills. And the more people endorse you for a specific skill, the more it kind of adds weight that you can actually perform that given skill. And so for someone like a recruiter, it's really nice to be able to use that as a tool to qualify candidates. Okay, honors and awards, right? Achievements you've achieved, outside or inside of school. Courses, similar to education, right? Maybe you've taken a specialty course, got certified in something. Maybe it wasn't degree oriented, but it was nonetheless adding value to you. Projects, if you have websites or web applications that are hosted and live, you could describe those and put links and collaborators and all that great stuff. So people can come in here and, view that as they see fit. And then we got recommendations, and recommendations are just kind of like our verbal endorsements, right? you have a connection come in here and let the world know why, you know, they liked working with you, and, you know, what your skills and strengths were, you know, and all that great stuff. Next, let's talk about GitHub. Okay, so GitHub is a web-based Git or version control repository and internet service. Okay, and so if you don't already have one, you'll need to get a GitHub profile. And then once you get a GitHub profile, you'll need to set it up. Okay, and so GitHub is much more lightweight than LinkedIn, right? Because it's not technically, you know, a business professional platform. It's more so for web development, right? Source control. So all you need is a smiling photo and some repositories, right? And you know, I always say you want at least over 10, right? Otherwise, you kind of look, you know, like you just started yesterday. So that being said, you know, this is an example of a good GitHub profile. Okay, now let's talk about online branding. So in this tech-driven era, employers often look at online sources that don't have anything to do with you as a professional, but rather who you are as a person in general. So example of good branding would be if they went to your Twitter profile or your Facebook, wherever, and you had a high number of profile followers, right? That instills leadership and all that, you know, great qualities, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, if they go to your same social media profiles and they see pictures of you drinking at last night's party or whatever else, right? Something that might give them a bad impression. Make sure you go ahead and clean those things up, because you don't want to give yourself, you know, a disadvantage in a job search period just because, you know, maybe you had some stuff posted from a while back and you didn't think to, you know, change it. So moving forward, let's talk about the elevator. The elevator pitch, excuse me. So the elevator pitch is a technique that can be used to answer the prompt, tell me about yourself. So it typically, you know, this is a question or a prompt that's used in a lot of interviews, not just tech interviews. A lot of us have heard this, you know, at the beginning of, you know, a lot of our jobs. And so most of the time it catches people off guard and they kind of just blurt out the stuff that comes to the top of their head. And while that's okay, it really doesn't add value to yourself. And again, you know, during that interview, it's all about adding value to yourself. So, you know, they do want to hire you over the other candidates. So that being said, you can practice and refine an elevator pitch. So when they do and ask you the prompt, tell me about yourself, you can answer confidently and in a precise manner. So the structure of the elevator pitch is as follows. It's 30 to 60 seconds in length, right? Not too short, but not too long. And it lists 3 things. It should list what you do well, those are your skills, what you want to do, those are your goals, and why you want to do it, your intent. And if you can sum up those 3 things in, you know, a short amount of time, you're going to come off as much more prepared of a professional versus the other candidates passing through. All right. So now let's talk about preparing for the technical interview. So technical interviews come in all shapes and sizes. So just know that there's no one way to prepare. It's not like a, you know, a hidden secret. You know, there's several different approaches, several different ways that companies give interviews. So instead, it's just best to prepare using well-known scenarios in the industry that, you know, a lot of other developers have ran into. And, you know, just constantly trying to, you know, increase your growth as well. So you are prepared. Okay, so a couple of sites we recommend to prepare for a tech interview, Coderbyte.com. And this one has daily challenges you can go in and you know, try to answer, and they range from easy to medium to hard. And they also give you a level, which you can see increasing over time. So oftentimes, you know, Coderbyte's a really good one to, you know, sharpen your skills and knowledge. Next is Codefights, and this one's good for being able to, you know, work under pressure, right? Oftentimes during interviews, a lot of people go blank because they're not used to that kind of environment. And so Codefights.com can get you prepared by, you know, having to build something in a timed environment, you know, against someone else. And then interviewcake.com is really great because they really renowned for teaching people how to think through interview problems. And maybe you don't get the answer 100% right, but maybe you get partial credit because of the methodical approach you use, right? So all three of those are very great sources to start. Excuse me. Okay, and now let's wrap up with the topic of follow-up. So as in most industries, it's good to follow up with the hiring managers on your submitted applications as well as your previous interviews. Keep in mind the hiring manager is often cycling through tons of applications, so it helps to have someone reach out to them to make yourself more memorable. And this is absolutely true. You know, we've had several students before, you know, one just the other day actually, they came to us and said, you know, I went to an interview and they told me I didn't get the position afterwards, you know, and I emailed them a couple days later and I just said, thank you for the interview. And then they ended up hiring him, right? Just because he reached out, he showed a little bit of initiative. That's all it took. So you just never know what a little bit of follow-up can do for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the floor and let's see if anyone has any questions. Okay, so the floor is open. If you have questions, feel free to ask those now. Okay, I don't hear anyone. Going once, going twice. All right, we're out of here. Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great day and happy job hunting out there.